years of dismissal, the casual cruelties, the message I sent that you were somehow less than. But I can acknowledge my error and try to correct it. You are more of a Caldwell than any of us. You represent what this family should be: brave, capable, honorable. I only wish I had seen it sooner. With deep regret and deeper admiration, your grandmother. I read it twice, tears blurring the words, before I could trust myself to speak. This doesn't change anything, Brandon said desperately. The old will still stands. She was clearly not in her right mind when she wrote this. She was examined by her physician before signing. Pemberton interrupted. Completely lucid, completely capable. And while this letter isn't a legal will, it does establish her intent, which a court would consider if anyone were to challenge the estate distribution, especially if there were evidence that beneficiaries of the original will attempted to pressure her into signing documents while incapacitated. He looked at Brandon meaningfully, which, I should note, would constitute undue influence and could result in the entire will being set aside. Brandon opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Ashley, who wouldn't meet his eyes. I stood there, my grandmother's letter in my hands, and felt something shift inside me. Not satisfaction, not vindication, something quieter and deeper: recognition. Finally, after all these years, recognition. What happens now? I asked Pemberton. That depends on you, Commander. As co-executor, you have the authority to contest any attempts to alter the estate before your grandmother recovers, or to work with Mr. Caldwell to ensure her wishes, as expressed in this letter, are honored. The choice is yours. I looked at Brandon. He stood there, in his expensive suit, his perfect face pale with anger and fear, and I realized something. He'd been given everything, and he'd earned nothing. His whole life was built on appearance, on being in the right place with the right face at the right time, while I'd built my life on competence. I want a full audit of the company finances, I said. I want transparency on every decision made regarding grandmother's care. And I want any pressure on her to sign documents to stop immediately. Or I'll report this to Adult Protective Services and let them investigate. You can't. Yes, I said quietly. I can, because unlike you, Brandon, I've actually earned my authority. I've led teams, made decisions that affected thousands of lives, briefed 4-star admirals and cabinet members. I've spent 2 decades learning how to command, how to assess situations, and how to take action when something is wrong. I held up the letter. Grandmother finally saw what you've always refused to see, that the scars on my face don't define me. What I've done with my life does. And what I've done is serve my country with honor while you've coasted on a face you did nothing to earn and a fortune built by someone else. I turned to Pemberton. I'll be in North Carolina for the next 2 weeks. I want daily updates on her condition and copies of any legal documents that need signature. I'll also need the contact information for her medical team. Of course, Commander. I looked at my grandmother, whose eyes were bright with tears. I'll make sure you're protected, I told her. And when you're better, we'll talk about what you really want, not what anyone pressures you to want. She managed a sound that might have been, "Thank you," and squeezed my hand one more time. Then I walked out of that room, past Brandon and Ashley, past the expensive furniture and the fresh flowers, and I didn't look back. My mother was waiting in the hallway, her face wet with tears. "I heard," she said. "I was coming to visit and I heard everything. I'm sorry you had to hear it like that." "Don't be sorry," she grabbed my hands. "I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. I just wish I'd said it more. I wish I'd stood up to her sooner." "It's okay, Mom." "It's not okay. None of this is okay. But you handled that with such grace, such strength." She looked at me, really looked at me. "You're extraordinary, Melanie. You always have been." 3 months later, my grandmother recovered enough to speak clearly. The first thing she did was fire Brandon from the company and revoke his position as primary beneficiary. The second thing she did was ask me to visit. I found her in her home office, thinner but sharp-eyed, sitting behind the massive desk where she'd ruled the family for decades. "Sit," she commanded, and I sat. "I owe you an apology that words cannot adequately express," she said without preamble. I spent 70 years believing that what people looked like mattered more than who they were, and in doing so, I very nearly destroyed the relationship with the most accomplished member of this family. Grandma, let me finish. You saved your sister's life when you were 12 years old. You've saved countless others in your service to this country. You've achieved things I barely understand, risen to ranks I didn't know existed, earned respect from people at the highest levels of government. And I dismissed all of it because you carried the scars of your heroism where people could see them. She paused, her voice shaking. I am ashamed. Not of you, never of you, of myself. I forgive you, I said, and I meant it. Anger was exhausting. Resentment was corrosive. She'd acknowledged her error, made amends, changed course. What more could I ask? You're generous, she said, more generous than I deserve. But I want you to know, I've rewritten my will. The company will be sold. Brandon has proven he's not capable of running it, and frankly, none of you need the burden. The proceeds will be divided equally among my grandchildren, with an additional trust established in your name to support whatever endeavors you choose after your military service. That's not necessary. It is necessary, and it's what I should have done from the beginning. Not because of what you'll do with the money, but because it acknowledges what you've already done, who you've already become. She reached across the desk and took my hand, the same gesture I'd made in her hospital room. You're the best of us, Melanie. You always were. I just failed to see it. I stayed in Charlotte for another week, spending time with my grandmother, rebuilding something we'd never really had. We talked about my work, really talked, with her asking detailed questions and me explaining as much as I could without breaching security. She wanted to understand, and I wanted her to. Brandon avoided me, which was fine. We had nothing to say to each other. Ashley sent a stilted apology via email that I acknowledged but didn't engage with. The rest of the family treated me with a new wariness, unsure how to categorize a member who'd suddenly gone from disposable to valuable. I didn't care. Their opinions had never mattered as much as I'd let them. What mattered was the work I did, the people I led, the service I provided. What mattered was that I'd spent 20 years becoming someone I was proud to be, scars and all. When I returned to San Diego, I had a new assignment waiting, a promotion to captain, and command of an intelligence unit that would work directly with Pacific Fleet operations. It was everything I'd worked toward, earned through competence and dedication, and years of proving that what I looked like had nothing to do with what I could accomplish. My grandmother sent flowers when she heard about the promotion. The card read simply, "I always knew you'd go far, I just forgot to look." It was enough. Because in the end, that's what I learned. You can't control whether people see you. You can only control whether you see yourself clearly, know your own worth, and refuse to let anyone's blindness define your path. I'd done that. Despite the fire, despite the scars, despite a family that measured worth in appearances, I'd become exactly who I was meant to be. And anyone who couldn't see that was missing out on something remarkable. Not because of what I'd inherited or who I'd been born as, but because of what I'd earned, who I'd become, and what I'd chosen to stand for. That was my legacy. And no one could take it away.